Let me tell you a fantasy story, okay?
Okay.
The fantasy story is that tomorrow we look into the universe and we see somewhere, either directly or indirectly, a light ray split, right? So like in a birefringent medium. Well, again, directly or indirectly, we could see it in the hydrogen spectrum and stuff like this. But let's say, for simplicity, the light ray splits in space as it is bent in space-time,
Yes.
Before Einstein, if somebody would have said the light ray bends around something without there being a lens, he would say, no, in materials, this is possible. It's called glasses, right? But without any material, how would it happen? Well, so again, it's a fantasy story. Assume the light ray would split in vacuum.
So one photon is coming, one photon is moving.
Let's stay classical, a light ray, a laser ray, something like this.
Sure.
It's fantasy anyway. But if that would be seen directly or indirectly, general relativity, and you can ensure it's vacuum and stuff like this, right? General relativity would be dead because a Lorentzian metric does not support the splitting of light rays into different polarizations, right?
So with one observation, you can state the death of general relativity.
Sure. With the usual caveats, is there another effect we don't take into account?
Yes,
Is there actually, you're talking to a theorist, right? So I can dream. So let's say something like this. But if something that dramatic happened, or another case. So many years ago, when I developed this theory at the Max Planck Institute for Gravitational Physics, there was this group in the Gran Sasso laboratory. They ran experiments. So it was a renowned group, obviously, and they measured faster than speed of light neutrinos. That was announced. And that was exciting, and it was a serious group. I think somebody forgot to unplug something or plug something. That was the reason. So there are, in the end, it was clarified. But if that had been true, and actually that day, Hermann Nicolai, the director of the Max Planck Institute there at the time, he came into my office and said, "Can you do this with the theory you're working on?" And of course, he was my director, so I say, "Of course you can do this." No, and in fact, we could do this. We could do this, but what we would need is a particle phenomenologist, right? And all physics is phenomenology. A particle phenomenologist to write down a really good model for it, and that good model couldn't be built on, if it was really in vacuum and so on, couldn't be built on a Lorentzian metric. It needs a more refined structure. For instance, you could take a fourth rank tensor as a geometric background with symmetries like the Riemann tensor, antisymmetric pairs and stuff like this. It's just a model. The point is, we are prepared for something that hasn't happened yet, right? If somebody sees matter that cannot have, due to their behavior, a Lorentzian background, but phenomenologists would pretty quickly figure out what would be maybe the simplest background that could do that. Then the question comes up, but what's the action for that background? It can't be Einstein, right? Einstein is for a Lorentzian metric, or a metric in general. But then you would try to solve our equations, and they're hard to solve. In the Einstein, for the Maxwell case, we can solve them, we get Einstein. They're hard to solve, but the result would be the action for that geometry in the background that could support that new exotic, but then new required matter. So in a sense, we converted the physical question, what's the gravity theory that can support such matter, into a mathematical question, solve these equations whose coefficients are constructed in various ways from the properties of the matter action. That's the idea. No? And there are many technical issues, anyway, that was our idea. How can we actually say something about modified gravity that takes seriously some other physical observation we make about matter? And it's quite remarkable that this is possible in the first case.
Yes.
But all of this builds on earlier work by Kukash and Teitelbaum and ADM. There's lots of predecessors, but we kind of, in a sense, pushed it there because, in a sense, I guess before people didn't have the motivation to look at this. But yeah.
I have a quick technical question. So I can see how you can get the signature. You just talked about it with Maxwell. what makes a Lorentzian metric isn't just it's a 0-2 tensor, it also has a certain signature, and then it's non-degenerate, and so on. But how do you get the condition that it is compatible with the connection? Is that a condition from the principal polynomial?
Yeah. So this is also something Ireland. It's very elegant. Actually, Schrödinger did that, right? Schrödinger had a modified idea. It's again, Schrödinger had a idea of modified gravity, and he said, no, Einstein does these non-symmetric metrics, but actually a deeper structural concept than the metric is the connection. And there are connections that come from a metric, and they're more general connections, right? So that was Schrödinger's idea. Actually, a wonderful book by Schrödinger, Space-Time Structure. A very beautiful, thin book on general relativity for a beginner. But there he follows this route, and it's technically and conceptually wonderful. And then he assigns to this connection a deeper meaning than to the metric, you could argue. And he tries to make a theory for connections rather than for metrics as the fundamental structure. I think he even announced this in the New York Times or something like this, and Einstein was angry. I don't know whether this is historically correct. This is the rumor. Anyway, it didn't work, right? I mean, we would know about it. And you can say, okay, all the idea with Palatini action, all of these things come from there and relate to this, but it wasn't new physics. So the idea that a generalization of relativity goes via a connection if you go away from a metric is an old idea by Schrödinger, but it's not the idea here. Here the idea is, why do we talk about a space-time metric in the first place? Well, because of Maxwell. Remember, the pluses and the minuses, say in the Minkowski metric, are the pluses and minuses undergraduate students have to learn in the badly written 3+1 decomposed Maxwell equations, right? Mm-hmm. But if we have matter that has a different causality than the regular cones, it would be cones that are a little bit more folded like this and so on.
I'll place an image on screen at this point.
Okay. No, no. And again, this is all theoretical considerations, right? So sorry, what did you ask before?
I was saying, okay, so in the principal polynomial, I can imagine how you can get symmetry or anti-symmetry conditions. I can imagine how you can get signature. I can imagine how you get that is non-degenerate or that it is degenerate. But I don't see how you get compatibility with connection as a condition of the principal polynomial.
But there's no connection at all. So okay, what we call signature in the metric, if I look at it from the point of Cauchy surfaces, is to say that the theory, the matter theory that has a underlying background of a Lorentzian signature metric, that the theory is hyperbolic. Globally hyperbolic. You have a Cauchy surface and so on. For a metric, it translates into this algebraic condition of having a certain signature, 1.3 or Lorentzian signature. For a non-metric structure, say a fourth rank tensor that could produce as a background to Maxwell theory, it could produce birefringence. There, still the global hyperbolicity of the matter theory is the condition we need, but it translates not directly into a signature condition. There are many other algebraic classes. So the point is, well, this is a whole thing one has to work out. But it's the global hyperbolicity of the matter action tells you how to construct Cauchy surfaces also for the matter action, and remarkably also how this matter action must look like. So that's it's at the end of the day, it's a very simple idea executed. It has some technical hurdles in between, but it's a cute idea. So
hi everyone, hope you're enjoying today's episode. If you're hungry for deeper dives into physics, AI, consciousness, philosophy, along with my personal reflections, you'll find it all on my Substack. Subscribers get first access to new episodes, new posts as well, behind-the-scenes insights, and the chance to be a part of a thriving community of like-minded pilgrimers. By joining, you'll directly be supporting my work and helping keep these conversations at the cutting edge. So click the link on screen here, hit subscribe, and let's keep pushing the boundaries of knowledge together. Thank you and enjoy the show. Just so you know, if you're listening, it's CurtJaimungal.org, CurtJaimungal.org.